What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel for part 2 of What If Luke Joined Vader in episode 5. Like all of the what ifs we address on this channel, the goal here is to take a pivotal moment in the Star Wars universe and change it in order to highlight the significance of the original decision and to explore the unforeseen consequences had things gone differently. As always, for those of you who have not seen part 1 and would like to, it will be linked in the description, but now without further ado, let's finish this. Luke stood over the lava flows beneath Vader's castle, surveying the landscape, admiring the life that fought to survive here, waiting. The Jedi apprentice would soon arrive. Killing her right away was not his first choice, but if she would not turn, the conclusion was unavoidable. There would be no mercy. Leia breached the planet's atmosphere alone. The plan, in her mind anyways, was always for Yoda to be here with her when this moment finally came. But the Grand Master seemed at peace with his passing, as if everything was happening just as he had expected. Gone, no one ever really is, Yoda had reminded her before he faded away. She had not seen her brother in years, and although she realized Luke had now changed, she was almost excited to see him. Before the ship landed, an overwhelming sensation of familiarity came over Luke. Leia approached him cautiously as Luke continued to stand there, somehow surprised, or maybe even confused by her arrival. He had been expecting an unfamiliar face to arrive, someone he did not know, who would claim to be his sister. Instead, it was Leia. She was this mighty Jedi Sidious had warned him about? He continued to stand there, quickly processing what was going on here, searching for answers as Leia continued to stand there, watching as Luke crept closer and closer to the truth. As he finally reached the conclusion, Luke slowly raised his eyes to meet his sister's. She spoke, confirming his analysis. "It's me, Luke." He took another moment to gather himself, closing his eyes as his posture stiffened. He opened his eyes, which now glowed a bright yellow, ignited his crimson blade, and lunged at Leia. Luke pushed forward while Leia backpedaled, blocking his attacks as the two of them fought across the same grounds their father had once fallen on. A large creature rose from a pool within the forest, watching. He had seen this battle before, many years ago. It was almost exactly the same. The fighting styles were identical. The aggression of one and the patience of the other mirrored their predecessors to a T. Had the colors of their lightsabers not been different, the alien creature may have thought he was going crazy. It was deja vu like he had never seen before. But then something happened. The taller of the two raised his hand as blue bolts of energy shot from his fingertips. The defender blocked his attacks, sending some back at him while the rest shot in various directions. Luke was impressed by Leia's skill. He was arrogant, positive that he was the superior duelist, having outgrown even Darth Sidious at this point. But he had to admit Leia was more powerful than he had anticipated. He would have to dig deep if he was going to emerge victorious. Failure was not an option, and so he did just that. Luke unleashed his full power, imposing his will, and finally forcing Leia to her knees. "You are beaten," Luke said as he circled his opponent. "The time has come. Join me, or your journey ends here." Leia's response took him by surprise. "You want me to join you in darkness. You know that is something I cannot do. But you must understand that Palpatine is using you for your power. I will come with you, Luke, but it's you in the end who must join me in the light." The conflict that had been brewing from the time Leia had arrived on Mustafar was now stronger than ever. Luke thought back to the day he joined his father, remembering his motives. This was never supposed to be about him. Vader had asked him to destroy the Emperor, and that was his intention. But he had failed. Leia was now presenting him with a second chance, an opportunity to right his wrongs. Luke's silence led Leia to the most logical conclusion. He was going to kill her. She bowed her head, listening to his footsteps as he approached, his lightsaber buzzing at his side. Leia was not ready to die. She became calm, sensing everything, keenly in tune with her surroundings. Luke now stood directly behind her. As his lightsaber blade retracted, Leia called her own weapon from the ground to her hand. It ignited in midair, severing Luke's legs at the knees as she caught her weapon and struck upward. Leia stood over her brother, relieved for a second, but suddenly devastated as she realized her mistake. Luke stared up at her with tears in his eyes, shocked by the maneuver. Luke had given in. She had succeeded. He was going to join her. But now she stood here, her brother dying at her feet. This was a mistake Leia could not live with. She crumbled to her knees and began to cry out, begging for someone to help her. But it was no use. No one was coming. Vader's failure was complete. Luke had suffered his father's fate. For those who do not understand history are doomed to repeat it. As they struggled to say their goodbyes and Luke let out his final breath, a destroyer appeared above the planet and a group of TIE fighters descended toward the surface. A few stormtroopers ran for Leia to inform her that Lord Sidious had arrived and awaited her. Leia reached out with the Force, anger now boiling within as she crushed them all at once, and then headed for the castle. She was her father's daughter. Sidious may not have killed Luke directly, but this was his fault. She was going to kill him. As she approached the castle grounds, a woman, clearly not human, stood before her. "You know you can't take on Darth Sidious alone," the woman said. Leia's patience had long run out. She would pace forward, telling the woman to stay out of her way, but as she walked by, the woman spoke again. "You're the one they talk about. The daughter of Anakin Skywalker, no? The one who's supposed to destroy the Empire." Leia paused and turned back around. "Who are you?" The Togruta woman responded, "Me? I'm Ahsoka Tano." The response triggered an instant sense of curiosity from Leia. Yoda had mentioned that name before. "I was once a Jedi Padawan. I survived the Great Purge, but these days, I walk my own path." Leia stared at the woman intently. "A Jedi Padawan. Who was your master?" The woman smiled. "Funny you should ask. I was trained in the ways of the Force by your father, Anakin Skywalker." Silence fell over them for a moment before Ahsoka continued. "I know what it's like to lose someone to the dark side. Believe it or not, I even know what it's like to kill someone you once cared about. You cannot defeat Sidious alone. Let me help you." The two of them arrived in the castle to see Palpatine seated on Vader's throne. "Young Skywalker, you have brought a guest. Don't you know the most important rule of the Sith? There can only be two, and Ahsoka Tano is not fit to be my apprentice." Battle would break out once more as Sidious unleashed wicked dark powers that Leia had not encountered before. He was less mobile than her brother had been, but the Sith Lord's knowledge of the Force was clearly still superior. But Leia and her newfound ally would find strength in numbers. Luke was the only Force user since Yoda that Palpatine had ever truly felt threatened by. But Leia's victory today had proven that she was worthy of that same respect. Couple her skill with Ahsoka's experience and Palpatine would surely be overmatched. Only he wasn't. Leia was exhausted. If she couldn't find a way to tip the scales soon, it wasn't going to end well. Ahsoka's fighting style was like nothing Leia had ever seen before, but it was clear that her strength in the Force was nowhere near that of Darth Sidious. The battle carried on for a short time, but Sidious eventually grew impatient. He reached out with the Force, disarmed the Jedi before him, and unleashed his full might on his defenseless opponents. As Leia's final ounces of life were drained, an oddly familiar voice echoed off the walls just before she collapsed to the ground. And the last thing she saw on Palpatine's face was fear? Darth Sidious was afraid? She fell in and out of consciousness from there, catching glimpses of Sidious and another dark figure as they clashed before the Mustafarian lava flows. And then it was dark. By the time she came to, it was over. The throne room's interior was destroyed, and there was no sign of Darth Sidious, or the ghostly figure who had apparently saved her. She glanced to her right to see Ahsoka lying there, her body completely lifeless, but in her hand rested a message, a note. Inscribed upon it were just two short sentences. "Well done, Skywalker. Your mother would be proud." As she finished reading it, Ahsoka's body disappeared before her very eyes, just as Yoda's had. Leia stumbled out of Vader's castle a short while later, hardly able to stand. She limped her way over to the ship, climbed on board, and then collapsed. As she sat in her seat, she peered over the scorched land she and her brother had fought on earlier that day. As she regained her focus and sat up to get a better view, she noticed that Luke's body was no longer there. Had some creature already swooped in and gathered his corpse? Or had he disappeared like Master Yoda? It was possible, but the odd part was, his robes weren't there either. A closer investigation would reveal that there were no drag marks, no lightsaber, no clothing, no nothing. It was as if he'd just gotten up and walked away. Or floated. She would return to the ship, not sure what to make of the situation, but on a different note, suddenly excited to return home, to see Han and Chewie, and then, perhaps, seek an explanation for her brother's disappearance, and the ghostly man who had saved her life. Something told her that she would never meet him in person. In fact, she was unsure that it was even a living being. Yoda had promised to answer her questions once she had found the inner peace to commune with him, and so that was her next mission. Alright guys, so that's going to conclude this video and my answer to the initial question of what would have happened if Luke joined Darth Vader in episode 5. Now, I want to acknowledge that I ended up taking this thing in a very different direction than I had initially anticipated, so this is obviously just one of many different ways that things could have gone, but at the end of the day, I do believe that the outcome would have been something similar to what I've laid out here, but that's what's fun about these videos. They can go in so many different directions and it's really cool to explore the ramifications of certain moments in these movies. But anyways guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like to support the channel, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and of course, may the Force be with you always.